There you go. So hello again. Welcome all. Thank you very much for joining us today in this session. We know it's late. We know it's a Wednesday. We are almost there at the end of the week, sorry. We're almost there in the weekend. So before we start this webinar on how to select institutions for if you're interested in study business graduate programs, considering the market. I'm going to do a brief introduction of what is Education USA, because we are doing this webinar with in collaboration with UNT, that I will introduce them later. We have here a very nice team from UNT, and they are ready to share with you all the information that you need to know about all the opportunities regarding business program. So before we start, I just wanted to share with you a little bit of information of Education USA. My name is Mabel Martinez, and I'm one Education USA advisor in Mexico. And for all of you that don't know us, Education USA, it's a network of advising centers around the world. There are more than 400 centers in more than 170 countries. Okay, and we basically provide free advising services for all of you interested in study, maybe a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, a PhD program, or maybe if you're interested in doing a summer course, etc. We basically promote U.S. higher education opportunities to study in the U.S. How do we promote these opportunities? Through different activities. We try to encourage general public to study in the U.S., in the United States. And at least here in Guadalajara, Mexico, where I am based, we are working hybrid. So we have some online events like this one. We also have in-person events, and we have some events that are online and in-person. And we offer one-on-one advising sessions, personalized session, when we sit down with you and we talk about your interests, your goals. If you have questions or concerns regarding the requirements, the financial aid or opportunities available, we can talk about this. We also have information sessions or webinars like this one. We also provide guidance on scholarships and financial aid. We do not have scholarships. Our only scholarship is called Opportunity Funds. And I will share in the chat a little bit more about this opportunity or this scholarship. But other than that, we do not have scholarships. But we can guide you and we can let you know about the scholarships that you can use or that you can apply to study in the US. We also have in our centers material for standardized exams. If you need to take the TOEFL, the GRE, the SAT, we provide, we have in our centers this type of materials. We also have workshops, and sometimes we have educational fairs where universities from the US come and they can share information with you about their specific programs. Okay. So after this, I just want to share with you 3 tips if you're looking to study in the United States, regardless what type of program you are interested in. Please learn, practice, or improve your English, because all the programs will be imparted or taught in this language. Research your options in advance. Research in advance the programs that you are interested, but also the scholarships that you want to apply. We usually recommend that you start the process 1 year prior the start date of your program. And also, the third advice that I can give you is seek a mentor, counselor, or tutor that can be there with you, helping you or guiding you through the process. And that mentor can be your closest Education USA advisor. Okay, so if you live in Guadalajara, Mexico, where I'm based at, you can reach me out here. But if not, if you're looking this for, if you're watching this webinar from other part of the world, you can go to the website educationusa.state.gov, and depending on the region that you are in, you can find the closest Education USA center. With this, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen, and I'm gonna give the floor to Joe Knight. He's a representative of the University of North Texas. And today, the whole team is going to present how you can choose a graduate business program, taking into consideration the job market entry. And thank you very much, Joe, for taking the time to impart this webinar with us.
Yes, absolutely. Can you see my screen okay? Can you hear me okay? Everything all right? Yes?
Perfect. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Sorry, if you have, before you start, if you have any questions, please type them on the chat. We're gonna have a few minutes after the presentation to answer all your questions.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, Mabel. So yes, this presentation is about choosing a graduate business program, considering the job market entry and what your ideal outcome should be. Because of course, if you go to graduate school, you know, the goal should be that your program helps you achieve your professional goals. So that's what we're going to talk about. As Mabel mentioned, let's see, my clicker's working. Come on. Come on. Okay, there we go. Just a quick introduction. So again, as Mabel mentioned, my name is Joe Knight. I'm the Assistant Director of International Recruitment at the University of North Texas. Yo hablo español, estudié en la Ciudad de México, hice mi maestría en alta dirección en la Universidad de Anáhuac Poniente y Texas Tech University. So I will switch back to English. My Spanish isn't always perfect, but it functions from time to time. And then I'm also joined here with Julie Jernigan. She is our Director of Corporate Outreach and Student Recruitment at our G. Brent Ryan College of Business at the University of North Texas. And we're also joined, I don't have her listed here, but Brooke Huckabee is an advisor in the College of Business at University of North Texas. So if there are specific questions that maybe I can't answer, they will be happy to help, and they may interject from time to time as well. Okay. Okie doke. So what should you consider when choosing a business school in the US? And as we mentioned, this is more about how this will help you in your career entering the job market. So I have a number there. The number is 800 plus. And as you may be able to guess, that 800 stands for, or 800 plus stands for the number of graduate business programs in the United States. So how will you choose? There are so many programs, and it's a big decision. And you may be considering programs that are in other English-speaking countries like Canada or the UK or Australia. So we're going to give you some tips, some advice, some things to think about when you're navigating this process, when you're thinking about which school to choose, because it's a huge decision. So we tried to simplify this since it's a very complicated process choosing a school, especially if you're studying abroad. It's even more complicated. So we'll break this down into 4 questions that you should ask yourself. So the first one is what? What is your ideal outcome? And we'll talk more about that. Where are there opportunities? In other words, where are there opportunities for you to gain internship experience or more hands-on experience, whether that'll be CPT or OPT, and we'll talk about that as well. But the where is a big question because the United States is a big, diverse country, and we'll talk more about that in detail as well. And then the next question you should ask is which business school, which program. So when you're thinking about how will I gain practical experience when I study in the US, how can I bring it back to Mexico when I re-enter the job market? We'll talk about that in more detail as well. And then the how. How will I finance my studies? So we talk a little bit about this in this presentation as well, some things to look at. Okay, but first, let's ask what. What is your ideal outcome? So if I ask a student when I'm on the road and I'm recruiting and they tell me something like, hey, and I ask them, oh, I'm interested in a graduate business program. Well, what is your ideal outcome? What do you want to do? What are your goals? What does your journey, what do you want it to look like? If they tell me something like, well, I want to work in finance. No, that's not an ideal outcome. That's not very specific. That's very general. So you really need to think about what does your path look like? Now, if they tell me something like, I want to be a senior financial analyst for a technology company, that's very specific. That is a very specific outcome. So that's good. So that's something that will help guide you. If you can determine what your ideal outcome is, that will help guide your decision. So it requires some self-reflection. You really need to think about what are you interested in? What motivates you? What are your strengths? What are your areas of improvement that you need to work on? And then you need to network. So you can network in a number of different ways. Maybe you're currently working in a company and maybe you have colleagues who are in a position that you find really interesting. So network with those colleagues, even if they're more senior managers. Or you can, of course, network with alumni that you know in Mexico. You can network with people on LinkedIn. But it's important to find the people who are on a path that you want to be on and talk to them about how did they do it? How did they choose the graduate program that they chose, whether it's in the US or elsewhere? So that's really important as well. And then it's important, the more work experience you have, the more beneficial that will be to you because you can really think about, okay, you know what? I really enjoy this aspect about, my current position, and I want to explore a certain area, more in depth. Maybe, I don't know, maybe you started out in finance or accounting, but now you're working with Tableau or Power BI, you're really interested in analytics. Well, maybe, that's an area you should explore for your graduate school. So the more experience, the more beneficial that will be to you to have to help you guide your decision. All right. So the next is where. Now we're going to spend more time on the where than probably on any other part of the presentation. So when you ask yourself where, you should ask yourself not necessarily where is the highest ranked business program. Of course, rankings, that could be important, but if you really want to gain practical work experience, when we talk about internships or we talk about CPT or OPT, which we'll talk more about, you really need to look at the United States as a whole, and you need to look at parts of the US that are growing, uh, where there's high job growth and low unemployment. Um, because, like Mexico, the US is a really large, diverse country. Some parts of the country are growing rapidly, where there's lots of people moving there. And why do people move to a certain place? They move because of opportunities, because of jobs. And then there's certain parts of the US that really aren't growing anymore. There's the unemployment's higher. It's harder to get a job, which means it's harder for international students to actually get the internships, the CPT opportunities, the OPT opportunities, things like that. So if we look at this map, this is a map of net domestic migration per 1,000 population. So the blue means that people are moving there. The red means people are leaving there. So in this presentation, I'm going to make a big case for the state of Texas. I think Texas, in my personal opinion, is probably the best place you could go study your graduate business program or engineering or any STEM degree. So if you look at the state of Texas, you see lots of blue. You see lots of blue around the Dallas-Fort Worth area. You see lots of blue around Austin and San Antonio, lots of blue around Houston. That just means lots of people are moving here because why are they moving there? Because of jobs. Now you also see a lot of blue in Florida. And to be perfectly honest with you, a lot of those are people who are retiring. They're not necessarily moving to Florida because of jobs. Some are, but not all. Many have already retired and they want to go sit in the sun for their retirement. If you look at California, it's pretty white. There's not a lot of people moving here. In fact, if you look at, Southern California, people are leaving. It's red. Same for the Northeast and the Midwest. It's very white. Not a lot of people moving here. Not the same type of like job opportunities that you're going to see in Texas. Here's Denver. So that's a big growing area. This is Phoenix, so another big growing area. Las Vegas, that's a lot of that has to do with tourism. And then the Northeast, Seattle, Portland, there's more growth. A lot of the growth you see here are people leaving California. And then same to Texas as well. So there's a lot of different maps you can look at to kind of determine what parts of the US are growing. There's more job opportunities, and what parts of the US aren't growing very much anymore. So just a few others. Some of these I'll go through pretty quick, but if you look at the top 4 states in population growth, Texas is number 2. So from 2020 to 2010, we grew at 16%. So that's a big change. California is not, it's growing much slower now. And then Florida, as I mentioned, a lot of this growth is driven by retirees, not necessarily people seeking new job opportunities. Real quick, the top 4 metro areas are New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, and then the Dallas-Fort Worth area, which is where the University of North Texas is located. So you can see a lot of these large metro areas aren't growing nearly as much anymore. Whereas the Dallas-Fort Worth area, rapidly growing area, almost 19% from 2010 to 2020. And then I'm sure you've heard about Austin and Houston as well. They're also growing at a similar rate. Here's just another map of different companies' headquarters that are relocating to Texas, specifically the Dallas-Fort Worth, or also known as the North Texas area. Lots and lots of companies moving their headquarters to our region. Why are they moving here? Well, there's a number of reasons. Part of it is the cost of living is typically lower than it is on the East Coast and West Coast. Part of it is we have lots of talents. There are many universities in the area that are producing talent, really, qualified people in business and engineering and information science. And so companies are moving here. Also, our taxes are lower. It's cheaper to operate a business or to run a company in Texas than it is in California or New York, where there's more regulation. And also, geographically, we're really close to Mexico. So most major companies in the United States have some kind of operation in Mexico, whether it's a distribution center, whether it's a Latin American headquarters. Um, so many companies, that are in our region have some really close connection to the economy in Mexico as well. So, more about our area. So, Texas now leads the nation with 55 companies on the annual Fortune 500 list. And then 24 of those 55 are in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Almost half of those are in the region where our university is located, as well as other universities like UTA and University of Texas at Dallas as well. So some more where. Mexico, this is something that I saw on LinkedIn and it just really surprised me. Mexico trades more with Texas, more with Texas than with Asia. So you can see where Texas is on this map and where Asia is. This just really is blew my mind. As I mentioned, Texas, geographically where it's situated, it's just makes perfect sense for students from Mexico if they want to come and study here, gain practical work experience, and then to take that back home with them when they return. There's just so many opportunities here. So I just wanted to show that as well. Okay, so now which we've talked about the what and the where. So now which? So how do you choose a business school? Which program? Remember, I mentioned there are over 800 business schools in the United States. So if you really want to gain practical work experience, so again, this is a presentation about job market entry. Look for graduate business programs that have built-in internships, that have direct industry connections, where there are STEM options. And I mentioned here CPT and OPT. So CPT and OPT probably warrants an entire presentation to itself, which I've actually done a presentation for Mexico about CPT and OPT. But basically, one stands for curricular practical training, the other stands for optional practical training. So CPT allows international students on an F1 visa to acquire work experience while they are enrolled in their program. OPT allows students to gain practical work experience after they graduate. So for all programs, regardless if it's an undergraduate or graduate program, students are allowed 1 year of OPT after they graduate to work in the United States, assuming they can find a job. Now, if the program is what we call STEM, STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, mathematics. If it has that label, then students can extend their OPT by 2 years. So in theory, they could work a total of 3 years after they graduate if their program is designated as STEM. Now, traditionally, business has a few STEM options. It's not quite like engineering, where basically every program in engineering is STEM. But there are some programs like business analytics that we have at UNT. We have an MBA in business analytics, and many programs do. Many programs offer business analytics as an MBA option. So check and see if the program that you're interested in is STEM, because if it's STEM, then in theory, you could, extend your OPT and gain even more work experience in the United States. So those are all things to think about when you're choosing which program. So just to kind of give you an example at UNT, now these are just our offerings. Every university graduate business program is going to have their own types of programs that have built-in work experience, direct industry exposure. Some schools will have more of that than other schools, and a lot of it depends on where the school is located. If it's in a growing region, like the Dallas-Fort Worth area or Austin or Houston, then there's more likely going to be more options for you. But just to give you some examples about what we offer. So we offer an MBA in management cohort program. And this program offers built-in micro consulting projects with companies like PepsiCo, which is headquartered in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, Texas Instruments, which is also headquartered in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and Silicon Labs. So students who participate in this program will be working directly with these companies on projects. We also offer an MBA in sports entertainment management. Same thing. Students will be able to work on projects with the PGA, which is the Professional Golfers Association, and the Dallas Cowboys. Both of these companies are headquartered next door to us in Frisco, Texas. And then we also offer, I meant to put MBA in business analytics, but we also offer a master's in science and a master's in science in information systems and technology. Both of these STEM programs allow students to acquire credit through internships. So if you're able to secure an internship while studying business analytics or information systems and technology, you can actually get course credit for that. So that you kind of kill two birds with one stone. You get the practical work experience, and then you also get course credit, which will, shorten your program, in lieu of taking an additional course. So these are just some options that UNT offers. But again, different universities like UTA or UTD or different universities in Texas, depending on where they're located, are going to have different options of programs that have built-in industry exposure. Okay, so now we get to how, and I'm just going to spend a little bit of time on this. Again, how you can finance your studies probably warrants its own presentation altogether. And I've also done presentations for Education USA Mexico about how to finance your studies. So we're just going to mention a couple things here. And then if you have more questions, we'll be happy to help you as well. Okay, so just some numbers. So the average cost of an MBA, and keep in mind that most MBA programs run about 2 years. Some may be a little shorter depending on, if you take summer courses and things like that, but most of these are 2 years. The average cost of an MBA is $61,800. That's just tuition only in the United States. Just to give you an idea, at UNT, we're a little bit below that average at about $51,000. That's if you pay out-of-state tuition, and we'll talk more about that. And then if you're able to pay in-state tuition, then it's much less. The average cost of an MBA at UNT is going to be about half the average in the US, so about $30,400. So for public universities in the United States, not private, private will charge you the same regardless of where you come from. But for public universities like UNT, we're public, we have two types of tuition. One is called out of state and one is called in state. Out of state basically means you are coming from outside the state of Texas. So if someone decides they want to come to UNT and study their MBA and they live in Pennsylvania, they're going to pay the out of state rate. That also includes international students. So students from Mexico, they will pay the out of state rate. Now, if you already have residency in the United States, I believe you need 2 or 3 years, I'm not entirely sure, then you will pay in-state tuition. However, for Texas public universities, we have a mechanism whereby you can pay in-state tuition if you are from Mexico. If you are a Mexican citizen, you have residency in Mexico. So let's look at that. How can we do that? How can I pay in-state tuition as a Mexican citizen? So you should be asking this question regardless of where you go. So if you decide, if you're looking at a state outside of Texas, you should investigate, okay, do they have some kind of mechanism where I can pay in-state tuition? Let's see, if you want to go to, I don't know, you want to go to Alabama, some public university in Alabama. Maybe they have their own way that you can pay in-state tuition. I'm not entirely sure, but that's something you'd have to investigate. But for the state of Texas, there is something called the Mexico waiver. Now you can see in yellow highlight right there, this is applicable to all Texas public universities. Okay, now the numbers I'm showing you are how it applies to UNT. So normally at UNT, your graduate tuition is going to be around $25,500 a year. However, with the waiver, they will give you in-state tuition, which is about $10,000 less. So what is the waiver? It's a simple form. It's basically once you're admitted to the university, you fill out an online form that basically says where you're from, where your home residency is, and then it's going to ask for a statement of purpose, something like that. And it can be pretty general. You can basically say how the waiver will help you achieve your educational goals. So again, this is a mechanism for all Texas public universities. Now, if you go outside the state of Texas, if you want to go to Arizona or Colorado, they may have their own mechanism. I'm not entirely sure, but I can say for all Texas public universities, this is a really, really, really good advantage that Mexican citizens would have. Okay, so just one more slide on how I will finance my studies. So this is a map of cost of living. It's pretty general. And even the numbers on the left here, I think even these might be a little outdated, but in general, this is the same. Dark blue, more expensive. Lighter the color, the cheaper it's going to be to live there. So you can see California, the West Coast, it's very expensive. The Northeast, very expensive. So when you think about financing, you shouldn't just look at tuition. Tuition, of course, is a huge part of your cost, but it's also going to be your room and board. How much does it cost to live there? How much are groceries? How much will transportation cost? So you need to look at cost of living, not just the cost of tuition, because you may get like a really nice scholarship to a school in New York or California, but the cost of living, everything included, that may be more than going to a state like Texas or Oklahoma, where maybe you don't get the scholarship, but it's still much cheaper to live there. Okay. So I kind of went through that pretty quick. I just have a few slides, a little bit more about the University of North Texas, and then if there are questions in the chat or anything like that, we'll be happy to answer those, and we'll also give you our emails at the end in case you want to follow up specifically with either myself or Julie as well. So as I mentioned, just really, really quick, the University of North Texas. Here's where we're located. So this is what we call the North Texas region. It's also referred to as the Dallas-Fort Worth region. There are two large cities, city of Dallas and the city of Fort Worth. And then we are located in a city called Denton, Texas. It's a smaller college town. It's about 140,000 people. We're about 40 minutes north of the airport. I mentioned companies like the Dallas Cowboys and the PGA of America. They are located in Frisco. So Frisco is right next door to us. So you can see why we have some of those opportunities there. But then, of course, we're close to Dallas and Fort Worth, where there's so many different large multinational companies with many, many different opportunities. Okay. Okay, there we go. Just real quick, we are a tier 1 research university. That puts us in the top 3% of research universities in the USA. And just to give you an idea, there are about 4,000 colleges and universities in the United States. Only 147 are tier 1 research, which UNT is is a part of that 147. That basically just means we receive a lot of funding for everything on campus. So anything related to research, but it also means we have really, really nice facilities as well. As I mentioned before, we talked about tuition. We have what I would call accessible tuition. And then we're located in a growing high-tech region with many diverse CPT, OPT opportunities, internship opportunities, which we also touched on. And that's really it. This is our mascot, Scrappy. We have all the major sports, so students are interested in that. That's always a fun way to experience college life in the U.S. I did give you a QR code that links to a really interesting YouTube video about our university if you're interested in that. And here are our emails. And of course, if you don't get this or anything, you can reach out to Mabel in Guadalajara, and she can put you in touch with us. And I think that's all I have. So I think I'm going to stop sharing, and I'll turn it back over to Mabel.
Sorry, I couldn't open up my mic. Yeah, there's a question on the chat from Owen. He asked, what internships opportunity are available in your business program?
Can I interject?
Yeah, absolutely. Go for it,
Okay.
Julie.
Hi, I'm Julie Jernigan. No hablo español, lo siento. Very sorry about that. I cannot speak Spanish, so I will try to be very clear. So we actually have a dedicated career services advisor who specifically serves our international students who are seeking internships. We have hundreds of companies who come to our campus in order to recruit. I can speak specifically about our MBA and management cohort. For that program, we do not have internships embedded as part of the program. However, every year we do have international applicants who are part of the program who then secure full-time positions because they are interacting directly with companies. For our STEM designated programs, there are opportunities embedded within those programs to intern for companies for course credits. So the type of internship you will get depends on your skill set. But we work specifically with companies who have historically sponsored H-1B visas, and working backwards from there, they are then able to hire interns, and they are very open to OPT. That's a really general answer. Mabel, do you think that that is sufficient or?
I think that is sufficient. But
Okay,
Owen, if you have
email me.
if you need further information, please feel free to reach out or
Yes.
email Julie directly.
Yes.
We also have a question from Flor. She's asking, those programs are available for students that have a master's in another field. You mean like the business program, Flor? Or I'm not sure if Joe or Julie, like if
Okay,
you
I
already
can.
have a master in another field, you want to study a, a business program.
Mhm. So if you have a bachelor's degree completed, or if you're in your senior year, you can apply. If you have completed another master's program, you can also apply. A master, I can't read the whole chat. Yes, you could apply. There, we have many students who have multiple advanced degrees.
And regarding that, I have a question. If someone already have another master's degree, in terms of the financial aid that you offer, uh, do like those students are in a disadvantage for having this other master or not really? Or an advantage maybe?
It's an even playing field. If you want to have the best chance of being awarded a scholarship at UNT, I can say that it's largely driven by prior academic success. So, whether or not it's a master's degree or a bachelor's degree or a PhD, if you have a really good GPA, that puts you at an advantage for scholarships. Brooke, am I missing anything on that? And Joe, I'm just talking. Okay. You're not at a disadvantage, I can tell you that.
No,
The other
that's correct.
advantage is for most TA, RA, and GA positions, for most academic departments will wait until someone has been in the program for a full semester before they will consider offering those to someone. However, if you already have a master's, I know of a specific example of a student getting his master's right now, the MBA, and he's deciding whether he wants to do another master's or go ahead and accept a position. But the academic department for the other master's has already offered him a TA position, even though he hasn't started their program yet. So in a situation like that, having a prior advanced degree is an advantage. I don't think there is a disadvantage to having another advanced degree, Joe, is there? Okay.
No, I don't think so. Not at all. And I think, yeah, someone mentioned, I'm sorry, yeah, pharmaceuticals. I mean, I think that would be really, you think about healthcare and I mean that I think that would be a fantastic combination to have, the background in pharmaceuticals, but then also the business background as well. I think that complements each other really well.
Thank you. Thank you, Joe and Julie. Adrian, I'm gonna share the recording with all the people who register for the session. So you will have it soon. And I have a question. If there are more questions, please feel free to type them up on the chat. I have a question regarding, because you mentioned the STEM designation. I don't know how to call it, like the STEM, like there are some business programs that are considered STEM programs. In terms of the curricula, what types of courses the students need to take differently from the ones the business program that are not considered as STEM ones? Like yeah, Like it will be more math, more engineering, or more, I don't know.
Yes. May I answer, Joe? Okay, Brooke, also you may be answering. Okay, so if a program is STEM designated, that means that the program has a certain amount of science, technology, engineering, or math. So in the College of Business, when one of our programs is designated STEM, it's usually related to the technology piece. So analytics, technology. In order to prepare for a STEM program, for the Master of Science programs, you don't have to complete background coursework. We have students who've come in with a Juris Doctorate, lawyers, attorneys who have come back to school and their background is in philosophy and law, and they have completed those programs. However, if you have taken statistics or calculus, you will be at a slight advantage. You are not required to take those in advance, but you will be at an advantage if you've already taken statistics or calculus. I don't know if that answered your question, but I said it with great authority. And I will
Yes.
say one more thing. The reason why there is an extension of that 24 months for OPT is because there is a labor shortage in the STEM fields.
Yeah. And there is where we can have an advantage.
Okay, yes, that's right. That's why we're here with you today.
Exactly. I don't see any more questions right now. So I think with this, we are going to conclude this session. But I wanted to thank you again, Joe, Brooke, Julie, for being here.
Can I can I add something? Sorry.
Yes, of course. Go ahead.
I just finished my co-op diploma and IBM in Canada. It is a college, and then I would like to start a master's degree there. But I'm not pretty sure about the minimum amount that I need to have to start to get my I don't know, my approval permit to study there. And then I don't know. Would can you explain me something around that?
You,
Just
when you,
the about the amount.
when you say minimum amount, are you referring to like your grades, like your grade point average?
Not about the money. Let's say tuition plus. I don't know
The cost of
how
the program at the
another
end?
expenses
You mean
should
the
I to cover? Yes, just to start. Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, he's cutting out a little bit, Mabel. Is he asking about the total like cost of
Yeah.
the program?
I think so because he cuts a little bit for me
Yeah.
too.
May I clarify? Okay, because you are cutting out a little bit. So you just finished your bachelor's degree, is that correct?
No, it is a co-op diploma.
Okay, Joe?
Yeah, I'm not entirely.
It was a
I'm not.
diploma.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's equivalent. I don't know. That may
yeah,
be an
Uh,
undergraduate question.
yeah. That's something we may need to research. So, if you didn't get my email or Julie's email towards the end, reach out to Mabel.
Mhm.
Sometimes we have to ask admissions and we have to research and find out if what you completed would be equivalent to a bachelor's degree or if more is required. That may be something we'll have to look into.
Or if if it's not equivalent to a US bachelor's degree, then we can direct you towards transfer admission so you can complete a bachelor's degree, perhaps even in a STEM designated undergraduate degree. But if you'll reach out to us, I work in graduate admissions, but I know people and I can help, and so can Joe.
Okay, okay. That sounds great. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
No, thank you.
Thank you, Adrian. Okay, so as I was saying, thank you very much for being here, especially to our guests for taking the time. This is great information and will be shared with the region. Actually, this webinar was promoted through the whole region. So we will share with them as well as with the advisors in the NCAC region. So thank you very much. Have a good afternoon and see you until next time. Bye.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks for having us,
Thank
Mabel.
you.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Buenas noches. Bye-bye.